It was a quiet and peaceful Saturday morning. The sun was just starting to shine through the windows of Raymond Keller's home. He had just made himself a cup of black coffee and was sitting in his favorite chair by the window, reading the newspaper. His neighborhood was always calm. It was a gated community with big houses, neat lawns, and quiet streets. People living there were retired professionals, doctors, lawyers, and business owners. It was the kind of place where people waved at each other but didn't ask too many questions. Privacy was respected, and trouble almost never came. Raymond had lived there for 2 years. Most of his neighbors only knew that he was a retired government official. No one knew exactly what he had done in his past, and that's the way he liked it. He kept a low profile, always polite, always quiet. But behind that calm face was a man who had once been one of the most feared and respected FBI directors in the country. He had handled some of the most dangerous cases, taken down powerful criminals, and made enemies along the way. When he retired, he disappeared from public life. He wanted peace. He thought he had found it. Until that morning. It started with a loud, heavy knock on the front door. Not just one knock, but 3 sharp, aggressive ones. Knock, knock, knock. Raymond looked up. From his newspaper, slightly frowning. He wasn't expecting anyone. He stood up, placed his cup on the table, and walked toward the door. As he looked through the peephole, he saw 3 men standing outside. They were dressed in black uniforms. On their chests there was a patch that read, HOA Police. One of them was holding a piece of paper. The other 2 stood tall, arms crossed, eyes scanning the area. They looked serious. Too serious. Raymond opened the door just a few inches, keeping the safety chain on. "Can I help you?" he asked calmly. The man holding the paper stepped forward. He looked about 35, with a buzz cut and mirrored sunglasses. "Mr. Keller, you are in violation of the community bylaws. We are with the Homeowners Association Enforcement Division," he said in a stern voice. Raymond raised an eyebrow. "Violation? What kind of violation?" "You have unauthorized modifications to your property," the man replied. "We have received multiple complaints and confirmed through drone surveillance that your backyard has illegal equipment installed. You are being placed under HOA arrest." Raymond stared at the man, his face unreadable. He didn't laugh. He didn't panic. He just observed. Everything about this felt wrong. First of all, there was no such thing as the HOA police. Homeowners associations didn't have power to arrest anyone. At most, they could send warning letters or fines. Second, the uniforms looked off. The badges were shiny but not government-issued. And that piece of paper he was holding? It looked like something printed from a home printer. Raymond unlatched the chain and opened the door fully, now completely calm but alert inside. "I think there's some confusion here," he said politely. "I wasn't informed of any violations. What's this about illegal equipment?" The man in sunglasses stepped forward again, handing him the paper. "You can read the details here. Now, we need you to come with us to the HOA security office for questioning. You can bring your phone and keys, but nothing else." Raymond took the paper. It was a mock-up of an official document, filled with strange legal terms, some spelling mistakes, and no real seal or signature. He scanned it quickly. It was a fake, no doubt about it, but he didn't let his face show it. "I see," he said slowly. "Can I at least go inside and change my clothes? I'm still in my morning robe." The man hesitated, then nodded. "Make it quick." Raymond turned and walked back inside, closing the door gently behind him. The moment it clicked shut, his calm mask dropped. He moved fast but quietly. He pulled out his phone, typed a quick message, and sent it to a contact saved only as Bishop. It said, "HOA police at door. Fake, suspected breach. 3 men, need backup. Silent protocol. K." Then he moved to a hidden panel in his study. Behind it was a small but powerful security console, something he had installed when he first moved in, just in case his past ever followed him. He tapped a button, activating 3 hidden cameras on his porch and yard. Their conversation and faces were now being recorded and streamed to an encrypted cloud system he had set up with a few trusted contacts. He changed into jeans and a plain shirt quickly. Then he checked a small drawer, where he kept a non-lethal, tactical device, a compact stun weapon disguised as a flashlight. He slipped it into his pocket and headed back to the door. As he opened it again, the 3 men were waiting, their expressions tight. "Ready?" one of them asked. "Yes," Raymond replied with a small nod. "Let's go." They led him toward a black van parked at the end of his driveway. It had no markings. The side door was open, and inside there was a bench and some equipment that looked like it had been hastily put together. As they walked, Raymond continued observing. The men weren't cops, that was obvious now. Their posture was too casual for trained officers. Their belts held props, not real tools. But they were dangerous. That much he could tell. They were confident, and they weren't afraid of breaking the law. "Can I ask a question?" Raymond said casually as they neared the van. "Go ahead," one of them replied. "Who exactly filed this complaint? I'd like to know who in the neighborhood is so upset with my backyard." The man in the sunglasses gave a slight smirk. "That's confidential information. You'll find out soon enough." Raymond smiled politely but made a mental note. These men were trying to act like they had authority, but their act was already falling apart. When they reached the van, Raymond stopped. "You know," he said, "I've been part of a few investigations in my life. This situation feels very unusual." The man frowned. "Step inside, sir." Raymond didn't move. "Tell me something. Do you know who I am?" The man's expression changed for just a split second. A flicker of uncertainty. Then he covered it with aggression. "We know exactly who you are. Now move." That was it. The final confirmation. These weren't confused security guards. This was a targeted operation. They had come for him specifically. But they didn't know everything. If they did, they would have been more careful. Raymond stepped forward, pretending to trip slightly. As one of the men moved to catch him, Raymond pulled the stun device from his pocket and pressed it against the man's side. The electric crackle was quick, and the man collapsed with a grunt. The other 2 lunged forward, but Raymond was already moving. He dodged to the side, grabbed a small garden rake from the wall, and swung it at one of them. The rake hit his shoulder, causing him to stumble. Raymond sprinted back toward the house, slamming the door shut and locking it. He moved fast to the console and hit another button. This one connected to a direct alert signal. Now federal help was on the way. Outside, the 2 remaining men were dragging their unconscious partner back toward the van. They hadn't expected resistance. They hadn't expected him. Inside the house, Raymond stood near the window watching them through the curtains. His heart was racing, but his mind was clear. He had seen many strange operations in his life, but this one? This was personal. He didn't know yet who had sent them or why, but one thing was clear. They had come for the wrong man, and Raymond Keller was no ordinary retired homeowner. He was a former FBI director with a memory like steel and instincts sharp as ever. This wasn't over. It had just begun. After the shocking encounter at his doorstep, Raymond Keller knew he had to act carefully. The men who claimed to be HOA police weren't ordinary troublemakers. They were organized, dangerous, and knew a surprising amount about him. Sitting back in his living room, he tried to piece everything together. Why would someone send fake police to arrest him? And how did they know so much about his home? Raymond's mind raced through the possibilities. Over his long career as an FBI director, he had made many enemies. Some of them were powerful people who could never forgive him for putting them behind bars. He had been involved in taking down crime syndicates, corrupt politicians, and dangerous terrorists. Now, after retiring, he thought those days were behind him. But the past had a way of catching up. He recalled one particular case he had led a few years ago. It involved a wealthy businessman named Gregory Marsh, who had been convicted for large-scale fraud and money laundering. Gregory had lost everything: his fortune, his company, and his freedom. He had been sentenced to 20 years in prison. The businessman had always claimed he was innocent, but the evidence was overwhelming. Raymond had personally overseen the investigation and prosecution. Marsh had sworn revenge, though Raymond had thought those threats were empty words. Raymond's eyes narrowed as he realized this fake HOA arrest could be Marsh's revenge. But why use fake police? Why come after him now? The pieces didn't fit easily. Yet one thing was certain. Whoever was behind this knew about his house, his routines, and even his security setup. This was not random. It was a targeted plan. He decided to gather more information. First, he carefully studied the fake arrest warrant again. The document was poorly made but included some disturbing details. It mentioned violations that didn't exist and referred to surveillance footage. Raymond knew that someone must have been spying on him. Maybe they had drones or hidden cameras in the neighborhood. If so, this could be a much bigger operation than just a few fake cops. His thoughts were interrupted by the sound of a text message alert on his phone. It was from his trusted contact, Bishop. Bishop was a former FBI agent who had worked closely with Raymond for years. He had retired too, but still kept in touch. The message read, "Received your alert. Sending local contacts to monitor the area. Any further unusual activity, call immediately." Raymond smiled a little. Even in retirement, he still had allies. He felt a little more confident but knew he had to be cautious. The men might come back, or worse, others might be involved. Suddenly there was a quiet knock on the back door. Raymond froze. He didn't want to open it but needed to check. He looked through the kitchen window and saw no one. Just shadows moving quickly across the garden. It was enough to tell him they were being watched. He grabbed his phone and dialed a secure line he kept for emergencies. It was a direct connection to a small private FBI task force formed for former agents who faced threats. The line connected immediately. "This is Keller," he said. "I need immediate intelligence support. 3 unknown men attempted a fake arrest at my home this morning. They showed fake badges claiming to be HOA police. I suspect this is retaliation from Gregory Marsh or his associates." There was silence on the other side for a moment. Then the voice replied, "Understood, Director Keller. We have your location monitored. Support teams are being dispatched. Maintain your security protocol and do not engage unless necessary." Raymond nodded to himself, even though they couldn't see him. He was relieved that help was coming but also knew that the danger was far from over. As the day went on, he stayed alert. He made sure all his doors and windows were locked and set his security cameras to maximum sensitivity. He checked the footage frequently, watching for any suspicious movement outside his house. In the late afternoon, Raymond received an unexpected call from the HOA manager, a nervous middle-aged woman named Laura. She sounded confused and worried. "Mr. Keller, I just heard about the men who came to your house. That wasn't us. We don't have any police force, and no one authorized any arrest. I'm so sorry if this scared you," she said quickly. Raymond sighed. "Laura, someone is using your HOA name to carry out illegal activities. I'm trying to find out who." She hesitated. "There have been strange emails and threats in the community recently. Some neighbors reported suspicious vans and strangers. We thought it was nothing, but maybe it's connected." This was new information. Raymond realized this was not just about him. Someone was trying to cause chaos in the whole neighborhood. His peaceful home was under siege. That evening, Raymond carefully reviewed all the security footage again. There was a strange figure captured walking near his property late last night. The person wore dark clothes and a hat and moved quickly. The camera couldn't catch the face clearly, but the figure had a device in their hand that looked like a remote control. Raymond's mind raced. Could this person be controlling a drone? Were they the ones spying on him? He made a note to share this footage with his contacts. To stay safe, Raymond decided to keep a low profile and avoid going outside unless necessary. He spent most of the night going over his old FBI training. His hands remembered the grip of weapons, his mind the strategies of defense. Though retired, he was ready to face threats head-on if needed. Suddenly his phone vibrated again. Another message from Bishop appeared. More info coming in. Your instincts were right. These men are mercenaries hired by Marsh's network. They have used fake documents and hacked into property records to plan this attack. We recommend you stay indoors and prepare for possible confrontation. Raymond felt a cold chill. This was bigger than he thought. The fake HOA police were just the front line. Marsh's network was powerful and dangerous. Raymond's thoughts turned to his family. He had a daughter living in another state, safe for now. He sent her a quick message to warn her to stay alert and not share any details about him with anyone. As night fell, Raymond prepared a small room in his house as a safe area. He stocked it with water, food, and communication devices. The old FBI in him was ready. He was no longer just a quiet retiree. He was a man being hunted, and he had to fight back. Before going to bed, he checked his hidden cameras one last time. Outside, the streetlights cast long shadows, and everything seemed calm. But Raymond knew better. Danger was close, and the next move was up to him. He settled down, eyes sharp and mind alert, waiting for whatever would come next. The sun had barely risen when Raymond Keller woke up, his mind already racing. The events of the last few days played like a silent movie in his head. The fake HOA police, the suspicious men, the secret messages, and the feeling that something bigger was unfolding around him. He knew the time had come to act, to turn the tables on whoever had sent those imposters to his doorstep. Raymond was a man who had faced danger many times before. As a former FBI director, he was trained to remain calm under pressure, to observe every detail, and to act decisively when needed. But this situation was different. It was personal, sneaky, and close to home. It wasn't just a case he could handle by calling in backup. It was his life, his sanctuary under threat. He got out of bed and moved quietly around his house. He had planned for moments like this. Years ago, when he was still in active service, he had installed a private security system in his home, far more advanced than any typical alarm. It included hidden cameras, silent alarms, motion sensors, and secure communication lines connected directly to trusted former FBI agents. It was a small fortress disguised as an ordinary suburban house. First, he checked the security monitors in his study. The screens showed live feeds from all the cameras around his property. Outside, the street was empty and quiet. But Raymond wasn't fooled. He had already spotted a pattern in the movements of the strange men from the night before. They came in teams, carefully avoiding detection, using darkness and shadows to hide their approach. He pulled out a small notebook and jotted down everything he remembered from the fake arrest attempt. The way the men acted, the words they used, the badges they showed, and their vehicles. Every little detail mattered. He knew that criminals often left traces when they thought they were clever, and it was his job to find those traces. He then moved to the garage. Behind the door was a safe room, reinforced with steel and concrete, equipped with communications, devices, emergency supplies, and a hidden exit. This was where he would retreat if things got dangerous. He checked the door locks and made sure the ventilation system was working properly. Then, without wasting time, Raymond sent another coded message to Bishop. "The imposters are back. I'm activating Protocol Alpha. Stay ready." Within minutes, his phone buzzed again with a reply. "Teams are moving in. Keep your head down. Trust no one." Raymond knew he couldn't wait for help to arrive. He had to gather evidence himself. If this was a revenge plot from Gregory Marsh's network, then the fake HOA arrest was only the beginning. They were trying to scare him, maybe push him out of the neighborhood, or worse. He recalled the strange van that had been parked outside his house the previous day. It was black, unmarked, and looked like a mobile command center. There was no license plate. He had caught it on camera but hadn't been able to see much else. He decided he needed a closer look. As he prepared to step outside, he paused. Raymond wasn't a reckless man. He had decades of training in surveillance and counter-surveillance. He knew the value of patience and planning. He pulled on a plain jacket and hat and quietly slipped out the back door through the garden. The early morning air was cool, and the streets were still empty. Using the shadows for cover, he moved toward the end of the driveway where the van had been seen. His heart beat steadily, but his mind was sharp. Reaching the street, he crouched behind a tall hedge and scanned the area. To his relief, the van wasn't there. Instead, there was a suspicious-looking car parked nearby, its windows tinted dark. Raymond quickly pulled out a small handheld device from his pocket. A miniature scanner used to detect hidden cameras, GPS trackers, and other surveillance equipment. He waved it slowly around the car, watching the readings carefully. The device beeped softly near the car's bumper. Someone had planted a GPS tracker. Raymond frowned. They were tracking his movements. He used a small tool from his pocket to remove the device carefully, then pocketed it for later analysis. He didn't want to leave any evidence behind, but he also wanted to learn who was following him. As he moved back toward his house, Raymond noticed a figure watching from across the street. The man was dressed in black, wearing a hoodie that obscured his face. Raymond froze for a moment, then quickly ducked behind a parked car. He watched as the man seemed to check his phone and then disappear into an alleyway. Raymond's instincts told him this watcher was connected to the fake HOA police. They were monitoring his every move, trying to intimidate him. Back inside the safety of his home, Raymond reviewed the security footage from the previous night. There it was, the same man in the hoodie, lurking near the edge of the camera's view. The footage was grainy, but enough to show the man's suspicious behavior. He began enhancing the video, zooming in on the face and body language. It wasn't a known criminal, but he looked like a professional, someone trained in stealth and observation. Raymond's thoughts returned to the fake arrest men. They had claimed to have surveillance footage of him violating the neighborhood rules. That meant they had eyes on his property for some time. How had they done it? Was it drones, hidden cameras, or insiders in the community? He opened his laptop and started digging through public records and online forums related to his neighborhood. He found strange reports from other residents about suspicious vehicles, unknown visitors, and even some instances of vandalism. It seemed Gregory Marsh's plan went beyond just targeting Raymond. The entire neighborhood was under threat, and the fake HOA police were a part of a larger scheme to sow fear and chaos. Raymond called Laura, the HOA manager, once more. She was scared but cooperative. "Laura, do you know if anyone new has moved into the community recently? Anyone strange or unknown to the neighbors?" She replied, "There was a new family that moved in 2 months ago, but they keep to themselves. No one has really met them yet. They keep a low profile, and the HOA hasn't had any contact with them." "Do you have their contact details or address?" Raymond asked. "Yes, I'll send it to you." Raymond quickly scanned the information. The new resident's house was just a few blocks away from his own. The timing matched when the strange activities began. He decided he needed to investigate further, but cautiously. Later that afternoon, Raymond drove to a local coffee shop near the new resident's home. He parked his car and kept his eyes on the street. Through the window, he saw a man leave the house. The man was tall, with broad shoulders, and walked with a confident but careful stride. He was carrying a briefcase. Raymond followed him at a distance, careful not to be noticed. The man entered a nearby office building and disappeared inside. Raymond used this opportunity to enter the house. The front door was unlocked, a careless mistake or a sign of overconfidence. He stepped inside quietly, his senses alert. The house was neat but sparse. It didn't look like a normal family home. There were several electronic devices, cables, and screens set up in one room, like a small command center. Raymond quickly took photos and notes. On a desk lay documents with names and photos. One was a picture of Raymond himself, labeled with his full name and address. There were also blueprints of the neighborhood and a map showing his house. It was clear. These people were spying on him and planning more attacks. Suddenly, he heard footsteps. Someone was coming back. Raymond hid behind a curtain just as the man returned. The man looked tired but alert. He sat at the desk and started working. On a laptop, Raymond quietly slipped out the back door and into his car. He called Bishop to report his findings. "Bishop, it's worse than we thought. The new neighbors are part of Marsh's network. They have detailed surveillance on me and the neighborhood. We need to act fast." Bishop replied, "I'm coordinating with the task force. They'll move in tonight." Raymond drove home, his mind focused on the next steps. He knew the imposters wouldn't stop until they got what they wanted, but he was ready. His years in the FBI had prepared him for this moment. He would protect his home, his neighbors, and himself at all costs. That night, Raymond set up more traps and alarms around his property. He programmed his security system to alert him immediately of any movement near the house. He placed cameras with night vision and installed motion detectors in the garden. Hours passed in tense silence. Then, at midnight, he heard a soft noise. Near the garage, Raymond grabbed his stun device and moved toward the sound. Outside, two men were trying to force open the garage door. They were the same fake cops who had come before. Raymond stepped out from his hiding spot and shouted, "Stop right there! You're under federal arrest!" The men froze. They looked shocked but quickly recovered, pulling out weapons. A fierce struggle followed. Raymond used his tactical skills to disarm one man and stunned the other. His training was flawless, his movements precise. Within minutes, he handcuffed them using zip ties he always kept in his pocket. He called Bishop. 2 down, suspects detained, waiting for backup. Soon, several unmarked federal vehicles arrived. Agents rushed in and secured the scene. The imposters were arrested, and their weapons and fake badges were collected as evidence. Raymond finally allowed himself a deep breath. The danger had been real and close, but he had survived. As the agents escorted the men away, Raymond looked at his neighborhood through the window. He knew this was just the beginning. The enemy was clever and relentless, but so was he, Raymond. Keller was no longer just a retired FBI director. He was a protector, a man who refused to be a victim. The war had just begun. After the intense confrontation with the fake HOA police, Raymond Keller felt a mix of relief and tension. The immediate threat was handled, but he knew the situation was far from over. The fact that these imposters were well-trained and organized meant that they were only the visible part of a much larger operation. Raymond understood this clearly. The fight was just beginning, and he had to be smarter and more prepared than ever before. The federal agents who arrived to secure the scene gathered evidence, took statements, and carefully searched the area. Raymond worked closely with them, providing everything he knew: the security footage, the strange devices found near his home, and the information he had collected about the new neighbors who were linked to Gregory Marsh's network. The agents promised to investigate thoroughly, but Raymond also realized that the official investigation could take time. Meanwhile, he had to protect himself. Once the agents left, Raymond returned to his home, a little exhausted but alert. He knew he couldn't relax yet. He walked through his rooms, inspecting every corner, checking his security systems, and thinking about the next move. He was used to thinking several steps ahead. It was a habit formed in years of fighting crime, at the highest levels. He began by calling his daughter Emily. She had been worried ever since the strange events started. Raymond reassured her, telling her to stay away from his neighborhood for the time being. Emily was a strong woman, but Raymond wanted to keep her safe. He also told her to be careful about what she shared online, especially about him. After the call, Raymond sat down at his desk and started writing a detailed report for Bishop and the federal task force. He described everything he had experienced so far, including the attack, the surveillance, and the fake arrest. He also included his suspicions about the new neighbors and their possible roles in the conspiracy. While writing, Raymond remembered a key detail: the briefcase that the man from the new neighbor's house had carried. He had followed that man to an office building but hadn't had the chance to investigate further. This could be an important lead. He decided to visit that office the next day. It was a modern building in the city center, home to several small companies. Raymond knew that criminals often used businesses as fronts for their illegal activities. If Gregory Marsh's network was involved, there was a good chance that the office was a cover for their operations. The following morning, Raymond dressed casually and went to the office building. He pretended to be a delivery man to avoid suspicion. Carrying a clipboard and some papers, he walked inside and headed to the reception desk. "Good morning," he said politely. "I'm here to deliver some documents to the office of Mr. John Davis." The receptionist checked the visitor log and told him the office was on the 5th floor. Raymond took the elevator and stepped out into a hallway lined with doors. He walked, slowly, pretending to read the papers in his hands. When he reached the office labeled John Davis and Associates, he stopped and listened. He could hear faint voices inside. Carefully, he looked around for any signs of surveillance. Spotting a security camera on the ceiling, he noted its direction. Then, he walked past the door and continued down the hall. Near the end of the hallway, Raymond found a stairwell and quietly slipped inside. He went down one floor, hoping to find an entrance to a basement or hidden area. To his surprise, the stairwell opened into a storage room filled with boxes and old furniture. Among the clutter, he spotted a door that appeared more solid than the others. It had no label. Raymond cautiously tried the handle. It was locked, but he noticed a small keypad next to the door. This was clearly a restricted area. He stepped back and examined the surroundings. He spotted a window above the door that gave a glimpse inside. Through the dusty glass, he saw rows of computer servers, cables, and monitors. It looked like a small data center. Raymond's heart raced. This was likely the nerve center of Marsh's operation. Suddenly, he heard footsteps approaching the storage room. He ducked behind a large crate, holding his breath. The door to the storage room opened, and a man entered carrying a laptop bag. The man looked tired but alert. He wore a suit and moved confidently to the server racks. He began typing rapidly, monitoring the screens. Raymond quietly took out his phone and started recording. He needed proof of this operation. After a few minutes, the man stood up and walked to a small table. He opened the laptop bag and pulled out documents. Raymond zoomed in with his camera. One document had the name John Davis, but also included several other names with photos, people involved in the spying and intimidation. One of the photos was of Raymond himself. The man glanced at the door, sensing something was wrong. Raymond quickly hid his phone and moved quietly toward the exit. He slipped out of the storage room just as the man started to turn around. Raymond took the stairs quickly and exited the building. Back in his car, Raymond felt the weight of what he had discovered. The operation was much bigger than he had imagined. They had a data center, documents, and people actively spying on him and the neighborhood. He sent the video and photos to Bishop and the federal task force, emphasizing the urgency. Meanwhile, back at his house, Raymond decided to tighten security even further. He installed additional sensors around the property, including pressure-sensitive mats and infrared alarms. He also set up a network of cameras connected to a secure server that only he and trusted agents could access. He spent hours reviewing his old FBI training manuals, brushing up on counter-surveillance tactics and self-defense techniques. The more he prepared, the more confident he felt. One evening, as he was reviewing footage from the cameras, he noticed something unusual. A small drone was hovering near the edge of his property, barely visible in the low light. Raymond knew drones were commonly used for spying, but this one was different. It was silent, fast, and well-equipped with a camera. He activated his drone jammer, a device that disrupted signals within a certain radius. The drone immediately disappeared from his monitors. Raymond smiled. The enemy had just met someone who could fight back. The next day, Raymond met with some neighbors who had reported suspicious activities. They were scared but willing to help. Raymond explained the situation carefully, asking them to report anything unusual and to stay vigilant. He also urged them to improve their home security systems, offering to share tips and contacts. Word spread quickly, and soon the neighborhood was on high alert. People started organizing neighborhood watches and installing better lighting and cameras. Raymond felt a sense of pride. This was his community, and together they would stand strong against the threats. Despite the progress, Raymond knew that Gregory Marsh's network wouldn't give up easily. They were resourceful and dangerous. One evening, Raymond received an anonymous message on his secure phone. It was a short video clip showing a family photo from years ago, Raymond's wife and daughter. The message read, "We know everything. Step down or lose more." Raymond's heart clenched. This was the first direct threat to his family. He immediately contacted the federal task force. They promised to increase protection for his family and monitor all communications. Raymond refused to be intimidated. He doubled down on his preparations, installing panic buttons in his daughter's home and setting up secure communication channels. He also began training more intensively. Every day he practiced hand-to-hand combat, weapons handling, and tactical driving. One morning, while jogging near his house, Raymond noticed a man following him at a distance. The man wore sunglasses and a baseball cap but was clearly watching Raymond closely. Raymond changed his route, leading the man into a public park filled with joggers and families. Suddenly, Raymond stopped and turned sharply. "Who are you?" he asked calmly. The man hesitated, then smiled nervously. "Just a neighbor," he replied. Raymond didn't believe him. He pulled out his phone and took a photo. The man quickly walked away. Raymond called Bishop. "The watchers are everywhere. They're trying to wear me down," Bishop responded. "Stay alert. They're testing your limits." Days passed and tension grew. But Raymond stayed strong. He had faced worse dangers in his career and survived. One night, a loud noise woke him. He looked through the window and saw several men trying to break into a neighbor's house. Raymond grabbed his flashlight and ran outside. The men scattered as soon as they saw him. He called the police and gave chase until they arrived. The neighbors were shaken, but safe. Raymond's actions inspired the community. People started cooperating more, sharing information, and standing up against the threats. Raymond knew the fight was far from over, but he was ready. He had learned that courage wasn't just about facing enemies. It was about protecting those you love and never giving up. The war with Gregory Marsh's network would continue, but Raymond Keller was prepared to win. After months of tension and careful planning, Raymond Keller finally saw a chance to bring the whole conspiracy to light. The fake HOA police, the surveillance, the threats, and the mysterious new neighbors, all of these were connected pieces of a dangerous puzzle. Raymond was determined to solve it and protect his family and community once and for all. His experience as an FBI director had taught him that patience and preparation were the most important tools in such situations. He had waited for the right moment, gathering evidence and allies quietly while keeping the threats at bay. Now, with enough proof in hand and the support of trusted agents, Raymond was ready to make his move. He started the day by reviewing all the information he had collected: the photos and videos from the secret data center, the recordings of the fake police, the GPS trackers, and even the anonymous threatening messages, all pointed to one person: Gregory Marsh. Gregory was a dangerous criminal with a long history of fraud, intimidation, and violent schemes. Raymond had once been responsible for investigating him during his FBI career, but Marsh had always managed to slip through the cracks. This time, Marsh was making a personal attack, using his network to try to destroy Raymond's life. Raymond knew the stakes were high. If he failed, Marsh's network could continue to terrorize innocent people in the neighborhood, and perhaps even worse things could happen to his family. But if he succeeded, he could finally put an end to Marsh's influence and bring peace to his community. He coordinated with Bishop and the federal task force, planning a careful operation. They decided to conduct simultaneous raids on several locations linked to Marsh's network, including the office building with the secret data center, the new neighbor's house, and several other suspected hideouts. Raymond's role was critical. He was to lead the team targeting the new neighbor's house, the heart of the operation, near his own home. This would be dangerous, but Raymond was ready. The night before the operation, Raymond couldn't sleep. He paced his living room, thinking about his family. His daughter Emily was safe, but he wanted to make sure of it. He checked in with the security team protecting her home and sent a reassuring message. Early morning came quickly, and Raymond prepared for the raid. He dressed in tactical gear and checked his equipment one last time. His mind was focused, his body ready for action. When the time came, he met with the federal agents outside the neighborhood. They moved quietly and swiftly, knowing that any mistake could alert the suspects. Raymond led the team to the new neighbor's house. The agents surrounded the property, securing all exits. Raymond signaled the breach team, and the front door was opened carefully. Inside, the house was surprisingly quiet. The suspects were caught off guard. Raymond and the team found the rooms filled with high-tech equipment, computers, communication devices, and surveillance monitors showing live feeds from hidden cameras all over the neighborhood. The team quickly secured the suspects, 2 men and a woman, who were linked to Marsh's network. They were arrested without resistance. Raymond searched the house thoroughly and found detailed plans about their activities. There were lists of targets, schedules of surveillance, and notes about planned intimidation tactics. This evidence was the final piece needed to bring down the network. Meanwhile, at the other locations, the federal teams were equally successful. They found more suspects, weapons, and fake documents used to create the illusion of authority for the fake HOA police. With the operation completed, Raymond felt a wave of relief, but knew the work wasn't over. There would be trials, investigations, and the need to rebuild trust in the community. The next day, news outlets covered the arrests. Headlines spoke of the fake HOA police, and the criminal network dismantled thanks to the bravery of a former FBI director. Raymond was interviewed, but he focused on the importance of community vigilance and standing up to threats. Back at home, Raymond finally allowed himself a moment of peace. His family was safe, and the neighborhood was free from the immediate danger. Neighbors thanked him for his courage and leadership. The neighborhood, once filled with fear, began to heal and grow stronger. Raymond knew that evil didn't disappear overnight, but with unity and courage, they could face any challenge. He spent time with his daughter and wife, enjoying simple moments of laughter and warmth. The experience had changed him. It reminded him that being a protector wasn't just a job. It was a lifelong commitment. He stayed active in the community, helping organize neighborhood watches and safety programs. Raymond's story became an inspiration for many, proof that courage, intelligence, and persistence could overcome even the most dangerous threats. Though the battle was hard, Raymond Keller proved that no fake police, no threats, and no criminal network could break the spirit of a man determined to protect what he loved. The war was over, but the legacy of his courage would live on forever.